Hola, soy Alfonso Escamez de Pecados Veniales y en doble firma vas a poder descubrir casi todas las marcas de relojería independiente en nuestros Indie Talks. Espero que os guste. Welcome to a new chapter of Indie Talks for Doble Firma. Today, in this new Indie Talks, we are going to interview one of the greatest creators and innovators of the modern watchmaking. From the video, I'm sure that you have recognized him. With his group of friends, MB&F has challenged the traditions of modern watchmaking. Then you don't need introduction, but let me introduce Max Büsser. Welcome to this Indie Talk. It's a real pleasure to have you with us.
Alfonso, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. Then you don't need introduction, but for those who may not know you, who is Maximilian Büsser?
Who am I? I'm a person who's had many lives, I realize. I was lucky. Interestingly, I was somebody who thought he had a very unhappy childhood, which basically turned out to be the greatest thing because it allowed me to become super creative. I was very lucky to enter watchmaking when I hadn't really planned into it. That was in 1991. That's 33 years ago, at a time where the watch industry was virtually dead. I was 7 years at Jägerle Kult, which were incredible. Then there was another amazing story where I get headhunted to take over Harry Winston timepieces, which was in dire situation. Amazingly, really amazingly managed to turn that around and grow it and create the Opus. And then in 2005, finally get to my dream, but actually a later life dream, because it never was my dream to create MB&F. It arrived around 2002, 2003, when I was meeting all these incredible independents to create Opus and seeing these people who didn't create a brand because they thought they were clients, didn't create products because they thought people would like them. They created a brand because it was their only way to express themselves. And the products they created are products they actually loved, and then tried to find maybe somebody who would buy it. And I was looking at these people going, my gosh, I want to be them. And I was lucky enough in 2005 to jump 2 feet in and create MB&F, I was all alone in my flat for 2 years and a half. And that seems like centuries ago, but now it's next year is the 20th anniversary of MB&F.
Now it's quite common to have collaboration between brands, and you have collaborated with some of them, but at that time, being at Harry Winston, it was not the typical watch brand. How was it to collaborate with people like Christophe Claret, François Paul Journet at that time, Urberg, those now very well-known brands into independent watchmaking?
I think brands have always collaborated with watchmakers, but they just never credited them. So that was the point. They would have these independent artisans, watchmakers, engineers, whatever, come up with ideas, create products for them, and then they would say, I did everything. I am a manufacturer. And so the big difference was with Opus was to say, this is F. Pigeon who did it. It's his movement, it's his idea. This is Vianney Halter and his crazy Opus 3 piece, which took 10 years to come to life. This is Opus 5 with Felix Baumgartner and Martin Frey. And these are these incredible people who've got incredible ideas. So it was a perfect win-win. On one side, Harry Winston could access these incredible talent and these movements and ideas. And on the other, the creators got a loudspeaker which was way bigger than theirs to get known. Now, this, of course, because all of us started as independents, basically, I'm going to say between 98 and 2005. Virtually everybody, there's this moment in history where all of us started. But nobody was really interested in what we were doing, and it was very difficult to find clients, and it was incredible. It was an incredibly difficult period for all of us, and it's amazing now, 20 years later, when you have customers knocking the door and say, "How can I get one, please?" And you're like, "My gosh, we never forget." Never forget where we come from and how difficult it was for the first, in our case, first 16 years.
Mm-hmm. But you are not a watchmaker. You are an engineer.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be as an adult? Do you have it clear in mind that you want to be involved in the watch sector?
No. I wanted to be a car designer. You can see
Yeah.
some things behind me here. I was drawing cars from the age of 4 to the age of 18. All my books, my school books, were filled with cars, cars everywhere. And then I did engineering because my parents couldn't afford to send me to the car design school, which was in Pasadena, in California. And then during my engineering years, I, by chance, fell into watchmaking and fell in love with it. And at some point at the end of my studies, again, by chance. So, you can have, I don't know if I have talent or not, but you can have as much talent as you think you have, and you can work like a dog. If you don't have chance, it's going to be difficult. And for me, the lucky part in my life is that I've told this story umpteen times of me skiing in February 1991 with friends in Verbier, and we stop at a cafe on the slopes, and there's Henri-John Belmont, the CEO of Jägerlekult, who I'd already met a couple of times, and he said, "You want to have a coffee?" And we start talking, and the rest is history. If I hadn't been skiing that day, I would never have sent my resume to him.
Mm-hmm.
I would have continued trying to get a job in a big corporation selling Pampers or Nescafe.
Yeah.
And so, it's incredible how your life can deviate completely from chance encounters.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember your first watch when you were a kid?
Of course, it was a Jean Perret. I don't even think that brand exists around. It
Don't
was a
think so.
small 32 millimeter, 34 millimeter hand winding watch. It was a watch for kids, but again, I was born in the 60s, so my first watch was hand winding. And I have these two very, very vivid souvenirs. One, that I would wind it every evening when my dad would come and say good night to me. Because my dad and we were not very close. He was not very tactile. He didn't do much with me. But that was a tradition. Come and say good night to me. And I would always wind it in front of him. And the other souvenir is that it was so difficult to wind that it always hurts my fingers. It's funny because there's these things. I'm 57 years old. I am back 50 years ago feeling that, ow, ouch, ouch, ouch. And I would wind it up, and I would always put it under the bedside table lamp so that the 12 little dots of tritium and the hands was tritium, would light up. And then when my dad would switch the light off, I could actually read the time. So that's one of my very first souvenirs of watches and watchmaking.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about MB&F. How the project was born?
Look, I feel like I'm repeating myself all the time, so I'm sorry for those who are going to listen and who already know the
Again,
story.
it doesn't matter. It's always interesting to know the story.
It's a life decision which arrived from... So Harry Winston, I was incredibly successful. I never expected to be successful. I never expected to be the managing director of anything in my life. And I never expected to turn around a company which was in dire situation and grow it. And I managed to do all of that. I got a massive ulcer in the way, and I got what most men want, which is recognition, power, money. And the bigger Harry Winston was growing, the less I was enjoying myself. And then lots of things happened. My dad passed away, a lot of other things. I usually talk about just my dad passing away, but there's much more than that. And the realization that I actually hated my life.
The golden cage, no?
Everybody wanted to be me, but I didn't want to be me. So it was very weird because I felt like I was ungrateful, because when you have the luck I had of arriving there, you shouldn't negate it. And so I basically started dreaming of what would make me proud the last day of my life. That's really something which, ever since then, I always think of that way. What would make me proud the last day of my life? As a creator, I had lost myself. Virtually every Harry Winston watch, except the Opus, was my idea. And I was designing and creating all these watches, and I didn't even like them. I mean, most of them didn't even want to wear, but I knew there was a market for it. And I felt so bad. So that was the first thing, was realizing as a creator, I need to create what I believe in and not give a damn about what other people think and if there are any clients out there. That makes me proud. And the second thing is my parents were probably the most honest and respectful people I've met, incredibly kind. And the values they tried to give to me, I applied in my personal life, but I couldn't apply them in my professional life. Why? Because you have to deal with a lot of horrible people in your professional life. And I'm being polite because we're on air. And people who, just because they've got money or power over you, you have to be nice to them and invite them to lunch. And I was like, if it was in my personal life, I would never see these people.
Yeah, right.
So this whole thing was like, became some sort of, my fantasy project was a little company which would be mine, so that nobody tells me growth and profit and all that stuff. No, just my little company where I can create what I believe in, surrounded only with nice people. And I fell in love with my story and my project, and that's in 2005. It's a funny story, actually. After Basel 2005, which was an extraordinary Basel for Harry Winston, extraordinary. My new boss, because I had a lot of bosses during the 7 years at Harry Winston, my new boss gave me my new contract, and he looked at me and said, "I think you like it." And in my mind, anyway, 2006, 2007, I'm going to leave and create my company and my brand. That's clear in my mind. So I don't even look at the contract for like a week. And then one weekend I sit down and I start looking at the contract, and it was a great contract. 12 months severance, stock options, you name it. And the last page, non-compete, non-solicitation of suppliers, and impossible to hire any of your team if you leave. And I was clearly in a year or two going to create a brand of watches, which was going to work only with the Harry Winston suppliers that I knew, and which at some point, maybe not immediately, I was going to take people from my team for sure. And here I am looking at this guy. Now what do I do? My plan is to leave in a year or two, and then I take a week off. I put Excel spreadsheet for 7 days, P&Ls, cash flow analysis, and everything arrives on the last Sunday telling me absolutely impossible to make this work. Impossible.
Yeah.
I had 900,000 francs. I was going to put 700,000 in the company, 200,000 to live without a salary for the next 2-3 years. And I needed a minimum of another 700,000. And that was like really minimum. And 2 weeks later, I'm in New York and I resign. Mm-hmm. Now, what's absolutely insane, so I have no business plan. I have not enough money by far. I have only the drawing of my HM1. Where is it? Direct Life.
Yeah.
This was my stereolithography in plastic, which we'd made. And this is all I have.
That's the one that you did with Peter, right? Peter.
Exactly. With Peter.
And Peter was working also at that time for Harry Winston, no?
He was working on his brand, but we worked together to create the tourbillon.
Yeah.
So as it worked so well, the STT, Peter, it worked so well. So I took again STT and Peter to do this. And here I am. I quit my job and I create my company. Seriously. Yeah. 19 years later, I look at this and I'm like, dude, what was wrong with you? I mean, who does that? And it's what I find extraordinary is that it's the fundamental beginning of MB&F is actually what's going to define MB&F for the next years. We're insane. We take stupid decisions consistently. I often say I'm very proud because for 19 years we've done everything wrong. Wrong if you go and do an MBA. Mm-hmm. Go to INSEAD, go to Harvard, go to IMD, and they will tell you that everything Max Büsser has done with in MB&F you should never do. And any management book will tell you the things not to do, and what we've done all of them. And we did them not because we're contrarians, not because we're stupid, but we did them because they felt right. They felt right for us. And the future has given us reason. When you look at where we are today, auto finance with those 700,000 francs, no shareholders in this company. We've come up with 21 calibers with 60 people in the team. And we've made this live doing things which clearly make no sense at all. Mm-hmm. That is something we are all in the team very proud of.
Sure. What are your keys of inspiration, and what do you think is the MB&F DNA?
Well, sorry, I didn't get the first part. What's my inspiration?
My inspiration for your designs, and what do you think is the brand DNA?
It evolves. When I created MB&F, I probably said at some point, we will never do a round watch.
You have done it.
There are all these things that I was like, it was when I created MB&F, it was, first of all, it's not a brand. And I still maintain that it's not a brand. We call it a creative lab. Mm-hmm. And from the beginning, we didn't create, and actually my very first design, which was this, the second watch was supposed to be in this case also, because that's what brands do. And then I was like, oh, no. Let's do a different case, a different project every watch. I remember telling Eric Giraud, my great friend with whom I've been designing all these years, telling him that, and he looking at me like, what are you talking about? So every year, every watch is a completely different watch? Like, yeah, that's cool, isn't it? That's cool. So it started off like this, and that is still. But in the middle of all that, you suddenly had, after the horological machines, you had legacy machines, and one day I will show you the drawings of what Legacy 1 was supposed to be. It was supposed to be HM5. It was absolutely not supposed to be what LM1 looks like. But I wanted to do a watch which was basically showcasing the balance wheel. Mm-hmm. And whatever I designed with Eric for months and months on it was either insanely ugly or looked like a Vianney Halter Antiqua. Mm-hmm. And at the end, I had this really great project which looked just too much like an Antiqua. It was like there was a cylinder with other cylinders on it. And there is one thing which we'll never do, is do something which feels inspired from another brand, or even less from a friend and somebody I admire. And so we'd been going round and round, and Eric was getting very upset with me because he was spending hundreds of hours on this. And one day I was like, you know what? And I come up with a little sketch, and I say, why don't we do a classic watch which is a inspiration of the 19th century? And then Eric looks at me and says, you're joking, right? And he basically gets up and leaves. He's so angry. And Serge, my technical director, who's been with me for 16 years, was my partner in the company, looked at me and very respectfully said, Max, we didn't join the MB&F rebellion to create a classic watch. I was like, you know what? Let's do this. Mm-hmm. And it was a big battle with my team. But then I managed to get a rope-in Kari, Voutilainen. It was extraordinary. I was just with him yesterday. And that was 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And there you go. So did I have an idea that we were going to create clocks and music boxes, that we were going to create mad galleries? If you told me I was going to create an art gallery, I would be like, dude, I don't know what drugs you're taking, but you have to stop. and all of this, when this finally works out and we've survived these insanely complicated years, we go and commit marketing suicide and create a watch at 2,900 francs where you absolutely know that when you're a respected super high-end artisanal brand crafting 25 watches a month, you must be totally insane to come out with an industrially made 2,900 franc watch. And I remember the few people I told it before, they all told me, do not do it. And people I respect, they're like, do not do that. You're going to kill your brand. And I was like, yeah, it's a big danger, but isn't it cool?
Mhm.
And I think the DNA of MB&F, now that I think about it, is, wouldn't it be cool if the phrase starts, if the sentence starts with, wouldn't it be cool if we come in? And so coming back, and I'm sorry, because I can talk for hours. So
Yeah.
So coming back to the DNA, what we've realized over the years is MB&F is way bigger than MB&F today. So going forward, we will be the mad galaxy. The mad galaxy is full of atoms. A very big atom, which is MB&F. There's an atom mad gallery, and there's an atom mad editions, and there's an atom of all sorts of other things which are arriving. And so there's all these satellites. It's a molecule, and it's alive, and it keeps on changing, contrary to a brand, because a brand is on the rails. It doesn't move, and a molecule is alive. We've created something which is alive. Does this make sense, or am I completely off my rockers?
No.
By the way, I don't do drugs. I just want to make everybody sure of that.
We have to share the same kind of product that you're taking because you are so creative.
You know what the product is? To create.
Yeah.
So I was being interviewed this morning, and so they asked me something about creativity. And I said, look, it's an addiction. That is my addiction. And when you keep on creating, you don't need much else. You need love. In life, you need to create and you need love. And it's interesting because since I've started really creating, which is 20 years, I mean, I was creating before, but not for myself. I am filled with adrenaline, dopamine, serotonin. I'm at max levels of hormones all the time. And that also means that typically I don't need to buy anything. I don't buy stuff. Like all the different things you see behind me. I love cool, crazy stuff, but there is no necessity to buy anything because I am so content creating. It's an interesting. That doesn't mean that I don't admire, and I've got a lot of watches from my friends and colleagues, and I've got some on order, and I spend my money stupidly on cars, which I love, but not modern cars usually, and because they're part of something which I admire, not to show off, because the story of that car and the creator of that car is an incredible story. Like when I wear my Kari, when I wear my Urwerk, it's the story of those people who created their brands and against everything. That's what makes me happy.
Yeah. You were talking about creativity. Don't you think that there is a lack of innovation and creativity in the watch sector, out from the independent brands?
Actually, I'm going to change my narrative because for many years I've said, yeah, it's all very creative. And I was actually, last year I was a juror on the GPHG. So as we won the Aiguille d'Or in 2022, I didn't present any piece in 2023, and they kindly invited me to be a juror. And when you actually scan the whole world of watchmaking, there is quite a lot of really interesting new products, but they often are not on the radar. And maybe they don't come from the most famous brands. But there is a lot happening. Yeah, you're right. Mostly independents, of course. But there's some brands like, let's take good friends of ours, Bulgari. It's a big brand. Look how much they create. It's insane, the creative process of Fabrizio and his team. So I think we're a little bit tough. I also think that our expectations keep on growing every year. And the more you see cool stuff, the more you want cooler stuff. And clearly, I mean, the guys who just change a dial color, yeah, okay, who cares? But I also think it's very difficult if you're a very big brand to take creative risks. And it wouldn't be difficult if I was managing it. I don't want to, please. But meaning, I think it would be, for me, easy to use the means and then create a lot of cool stuff. But you start having a return on investment, ROI obligations. And you can't have your engineers working day and night for years to create something so crazy and polarizing that only 50 people want it. When you're making 60,000, 50,000, 100,000 watches a year. You need to please a certain amount of people. So I think it's difficult, more difficult for bigger brands because it's much easier for us. Much easier.
You wake up some days with crazy ideas, like to have a watch with the image of a dog with the moving jaws. And what do your designer like Eric or your watchmaker think about the ideas when you tell them we are going to do so?
No, I think they're used to it. I mean, I think everybody I am lucky enough to be surrounded with are people who expect that. Now, clearly 19 years ago when I started and I was all alone and I would go and see Eric every day in his office and we would design pieces and I invented an HM1, an HM2, an HM3, an HM4. Everybody looked at us like, well, what is this? And the first people we started working with, like, what? But then over the years, we've attracted people who resonate on that wavelength. So it's interesting because, and I've often said that when I started MB&F, I was terrified that nobody would buy anything I was creating. And it was very difficult. Now, 21 calibers later, what I'm scared of is of disappointing. Because the level of expectations of our clients, our team, the people we work with, and the fans keeps on growing. Yeah. And I feel like every time we come out with a piece, we have thousands of people in front of their Instagram going, "You better amaze me, dude." and so I can't let that scare me. And what I will only let a product come out if we are proud of it. And I think if we are proud of it, it means we've gone out of our comfort zone, we've taken risks. Beauty is very arguable, but we find it beautiful. And so I'm pretty confident that, and look, at the end of the day, if I'll take you to the other side, if everybody loves what we come out with, we have failed. And I maybe told you this story when we came out in HM6 in 2014. It was really the beginning of Instagram really taking off. It's 10 years ago. And I remember when watch blogs or others would post the HM6, you had so many people writing fugly. And I remember asking my team, what does that mean? And everybody's like, And when I discovered what it meant, I was like, what? Why are people so mean? Why are people so nasty? And it really affected me. And then Serge, again, my partner in the company, said one day, he said, if when we come out with something, you don't have a lot of fuglies, we're talking of horological machines, not legacy, but horological machines. If we don't get a lot of fuglies on social media, it means we have failed. Because we're not generating strong emotions. We're not amazing people. Like, dude, you're so right. You're so right.
Yeah. Many of us, we consider your watches like a pieces of art. It's not just a watch, it's a piece of art for your wrist. What is the thin line between the art and the watchmaking, and how do you see it? Do you have a kind of inspiration in art for your watches?
Of course. Now, and why? Because for me, an artist is somebody who creates something without giving a damn if people will like it. As soon as you start creating, thinking this people will like and therefore I will do it because they will like it, you have become a designer or a marketeer. And that is the difference for me. I mean, everybody's got a different definition of art. But an artist, from the first point, is I create what I believe in and okay. And that is the fundamental part of MB&F in the creative process. But then art is also something which generates emotion, because I can just draw a square on a white paper and it's not going to generate any emotion for anybody, except if I said it's worth $2 million. And a lot of people would have it. But it's not, that's just provocation. That doesn't mean anything. So an art also, and then I will go head to head with a lot of art galleries which disagree with me. For me, art, there needs to be talent and craftsmanship. And if you look at contemporary art, galleries are like, what are you talking about? Absolutely not. It's the intent, it's the idea. And for me, art is linked intimately with this incredible hand talent of somebody crafting something amazing. And it's really intimate for me. And that's why watchmaking for me, artisanal watchmaking is art. So yes, it's clearly a piece of art. And again, art, people will hate it and people will love it, and they will have an opinion.
Mm-hmm. Max, you have won several GPHG prizes, but 2 years ago you won the Aiguille d'Or with an amazing watch. What does it mean, that kind of recognition? Is the recognition from your peers, or it puts you more pressure for the future?
It was great. It was great. It's true. We got a lot of GPHG prizes over the last 10 years, and everyone is a beautiful shot of recognition, of love from our peers, and that means a lot. You know, if people who don't understand anything to watchmaking say it's crap or I hate it, it's okay. But when the people who are in your industry say, well done, that means something. Do we create for prizes? Of course not. Our prize is already the piece itself. But when that happens, when the Aiguille d'Or arrives, and more importantly on this, because the Aiguille d'Or was for Stephen McDonald's achievement, and then we have to now go and talk about Stephen McDonald, because the man is a genius. He's a genius who's been suffering a long time, because his genius comes with the bad side of if something is not perfect, it's very difficult for him emotionally and actually physically. And so 5 years to create the perpetual, 5 years to create the sequential, that's 10 years of his life, 10 years of insane engineering ideas which is completely out of the box, which don't resemble anything of traditional watchmaking, and 10 years of very, very tough emotional and physical difficulties for him. Mm-hmm. So that prize was for Stephen. That prize was for him.
I was going to ask you how was to work with Stephen. You have won the Aiguille d'Or with an amazing chronograph, most probably the best chronograph in the history. And now you came up this year with, you have improved it. Now the sequential flyback.
Yeah.
How is this possible? It was just the question, how is to work with Stephen?
So the backside story is Stephen actually wanted to launch it with the double flyback. But after 5 years, we told him, look, 5 years of investments, insane investments, like we have to come out with this product. We're a tiny company. And we keep on funding. And we come out with one new product, one new caliber every year. But a caliber takes between 3 to 5 years to make. So it's all the time funding. It was like, look, we're going to have to come out with this. And so we took the decisions to come out with it without the flyback. And it took him a long time to finalize that double flyback, because as the whole construction of that chronograph is nothing like all the others, he actually had to invent a system which used the flyback. He couldn't use anything which was already being, because we're in an industry which recycles a lot of things. And so It was another patent. I think it was the 6th patent on that caliber. And then we came out with it. And as we can only do more or less 30 sequentials a year, we decided to do it in a limited edition in platinum for the launch edition. Yeah, so it's been quite an incredible adventure. And when I'm gone, people will just remember the brand, buy the products, of course. But for me, what's most important are those stories between me and all these incredible people who have together created something pretty amazing. And with our ups and our downs, because the downs make the ups worthwhile, and it's been quite a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm. At the beginning, we have been talking about your collaboration when you were at Harry Winston, but with MB&F, you have done several collaborations. One with another of my favorite brand, that is H. Moser and Company. It's you have done 2-3 pieces, because one, it was 2 pieces at the same time, and then the pandemonium. What do you look for in this kind of collaboration? How do you choose your collaboration? What are you looking in that kind of and how was the pandemonium?
So, you for me, a collab is like creating a. So, as a creator in a watch world, you could say that I'm like a mono-parent having kids. So I have an idea and we make it come to life. It's my child. When you do a collab, you're 2 parents creating a kid. And therefore, it's a very, very different project. It makes only sense if you're going to collaborate with a very creative other team person company, which has a very strong attitude characteristic. And both of us come together and meld it into something. It also only makes sense if both wants to create a great product. Because if one is only interested in money and the other one is interested in a great product, it doesn't work. And third, we all have egos as creators. And when you start co-creating, you need to have people who I have learned to put my ego in check and accept the other person's worlds, the other person's ideas, which are not my ideas, because if they were my ideas, I do not need them.
Yeah.
And so that's when I basically come together with somebody who's got strong ego and ready to actually also put their ego down, and we create that piece that none of us would have created separately. I think the pandemonium is a beautiful example. I mean, we're absolutely friggin' bananas to spend 2 years developing a unique movement to give it away. It's the streamliner case. It's the base of the minute repeater of H. Moser. We bring our flying balance wheel. We bring the panda and make a product that none of us would have done separately. It was not for money. It was to create a great product. And we had fun.
I know that is very difficult for you, because it's to choose father or mother. Which one of your watches you love the most? I'm going to tell you which one is my favorite. Is the perpetual calendar. I love that watch. But which one's yours?
It's a question I get all the time. And I'll give you the real answer, which basically is, as a creator, there's this weird thing that once a product is created, I lose interest in it. I have nostalgia. But what gets my adrenaline up? To look at my past? No. It's all the other pieces I'm working on. So it's always the next piece or next pieces. And maybe it's even often not even the one which is about to come out in 6 months or a year. It's the really cool, crazy idea, which is only a sketch, which is going to come out in 2031. That's what really gets me happy. Now, if I have to look back, if there's only one, it's incredibly complex.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go for two. Horological machine number 4, the Thunderbolt, which looks like a plane with the 2 reactors, because it's a seminal piece in our creativity, and because it's going to change completely the courage I'm going to have. Because I was insanely courageous to do that, because we nearly went bankrupt in 2007 and 2009, and I come out with that in 2010. And it was so crazy that nobody ordered it. No retailers ordered it. And then when we launched it, launch in those days was me sending 200 emails to 200 journalists. I knew, like, hi, this is Max, this is my new piece. And when we launched it and the blog started talking about it, suddenly the phone started ringing, emails started coming in. Retailers, do you still have that watch? There's a guy who actually wants it. Mm-hmm. So it was really the proof that if I go to the end of my creative process, even though I'm terrified, maybe the retailers won't get it, but there is somebody out there who will follow me. So that's going to really be a stepping stone. And the second one, I'm going to say the Perpetual, because it's Stephen McDonald's first brainchild. It's the first piece we created together. It's just, it's as mind-boggling as Sequential. The Perpetual honestly deserved the Aiguille d'Or when it came out in 2015. Yeah. But the brand was such a small brand in those days. I don't think any jurors even looked at the. And I was told that it was in contention, but we were irrelevant in those days. And I think, and there you go. I'm wearing a Perpetual Evo today, and I wear it often. It's what a story! What a story that caliber is.
Mm-hmm. Great. What are the most important markets for MB&F, and is the Spanish market, considering that you are working with Rabat, enough important for you?
So, for 16 years, I would desperately looking for anybody who would be courageous enough to buy one of my pieces. Courageous enough and have the means, of course. Mm-hmm. People who loved what we did, there were lots, thousands, hundreds of thousands. But people who actually have the means, they're much less. And so it was whoever was ready to get one of our pieces, I was so grateful. And then the world changed in 2020. And demand on MB&F multiplied by 10, 20, 50. It was insane. So what we've done since is that we allocate. So we craft, so last year we did 419 watches. We're not growing anymore. I mean, we decided already early last year that the next 4 years are going to be completely flat. And we basically allocate 1/3 to the US, 1/3 to Asia, and 1/3 to Europe and Middle East. So it's not about which are the most successful market, because all our retail partners have very long waiting lists, but it's where we allocate with the pieces.
Okay, great. When I ask you your favorite piece, you have told me that it's the next one. Can you give us a little hint or about what is coming in the future, or even this year?
A lot. Actually,
Any clue?
Plan to come out end of this year is now being pushed over to end of first semester next year, because we've had such delays in pros. It's been these last two years have been incredibly complicated on getting the components made. So you're going to see next year a whole series of really amazing pieces. More even than we planned, because even the novelty of this year, which is not an HM or an LM, is pushed over to next year. And so it's going to be an incredible festival. And it's a good thing, because it's our 20th anniversary, and we didn't do it on purpose, but actually everything is coming like in a funnel. It's going to come out next year. But then there's so much more, because success is a very dangerous thing. Most brands, when they have success, they stop creating, they stop taking risks. And we, on the other hand, in the last 3 years, because we had more means, we've done way more. There's so much more in the pipeline that we couldn't afford to do 10 years or even 5 years ago. So the last 3 years have seeded a lot of things which you're going to see in the years to come.
Okay, great. Then my last question is the question that I do to all the interviewees, is that if you were not wearing your MB&F, which brand and model would you wear?
Now we're talking in Grail perspective. We're not talking in actually I can afford one. Huh?
Whatever you want. No limits. The sky is the limit.
I would be wearing a Beat Haldiman H2.
Mm-hmm.
And most people have never even heard of Beat Haldiman, who for me is should be as celebrated as Philippe Dufour, but hasn't received the kudos he deserves.
Great. Then, Max, I would keep on talking with you all the time, but I know that you are quite busy. Thank you for being with us here at Indie Talks. It has been a pleasure. Hope to see you soon.
Very good. Are you coming to Geneva Watch Days?
No, I'll be on holidays. I'm going to the south of Spain. Then I'll be there. I'm going to be at the Milano Watch Week.
Okay. Unfortunately, I can't make it to Milano. There's so many things going on. So many events going on. And there's a moment where my daughters are 7 and 11, and I just don't want to travel as much as I used to. I think it's very important for me that I stay more with them, with the family. So it's a juggling exercise. Then
we are waiting for you here in Spain to come to visit us.
Definitely. Alfonso, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. Take care.
Take care.